In Hypixel Skyblock, there are a wide variety of pets that serve many different purposes, but a cut above the rest stand the Ender Dragon and Golden Dragon pets. In this video, we will be putting these two pets head to head in 5 different categories, being their accessibility, their additional stats and perks, their raw damage, their specialization, and finally, their door opening factor, to find out which pet is truly the best. Starting off with accessibility. The Ender Dragon, at level 100, if you want to take a tier boosted, will cost you around 550 mil, and if you want a true Ender Dragon, this pet will cost you approximately 840 mil. Compared to that, a level 200 Golden Dragon will cost you approximately 1.1 to 1.2 billion coins. Now looking at these numbers alone, we can already see that the Golden Dragon is far more expensive than the Ender Dragon, but that is not even considering that the Golden Dragon requires 1 billion coins in the bank in order to maximize its perk, Legendary Treasure, which is where most of its damage comes from. This means that in order to use the full power of an Ender Dragon, it would cost you around 850 mil for a true Ender Dragon and around 500 to 550 mil for a tier boosted one, while a Golden Dragon, to fully utilize its power, you are going to need over 2.1 billion coins. In terms of accessibility, the Ender Dragon easily takes this category. And now let's mention our second category, which is additional stats. This will showcase the additional stats and perks the pets give and compare them to see which one is more valuable in that regard. Starting with the Ender Dragon gives you an additional 50 strength, 10 crit chance, and 60 crit damage. Ignore the 35% attack speed, it's from the Tiger plushie item I have on it. It also gives more damage to end mobs and buffs the aspect of the dragon. But obviously, the main perk of the Ender Dragon is its superior perk, which increases pretty much every combat stat by 10%. And we will now compare this to the Golden Dragon, which at base gives 50 strength, 50 attack speed, and 10 magic find. However, for every digit in your gold collection, you get an additional strength, 10 strength, and 2 magic find. With this, once you have the max of 1 billion gold collection, you will have 150 additional strength and 30 additional magic find. Obviously, right now I'm only at like 1 million gold collection, which is really low, so I only have 120 strength and 24 magic find. Additionally, the perk from the Golden Dragon, Gold's Power, gives 100 strength to all golden weapons, which could be useful if you're using something like a Daedalus Axe, but outside of that, it's not very useful. I don't think it works on the Blaze Daggers, but you can correct me in the comments. Then we also have the perk Dragon's Greed, which gives you a little bit more strength for the more magic find you have, which is also very pleasant, but usually it's a very small amount. And finally, the most powerful perk of the Golden Dragon is Legendary Treasure, which is absolutely overpowered and essentially gives you more damage the more bank you have, up to 1 billion in the bank. So in terms of raw stats and everything, the Golden Dragon easily takes this. The attack speed is amazing, the extra strength is incredible, the extra damage is incredible, the magic find is incredible. Although the Ender Dragon stats are really, really good, probably the second best in the game, it just can't compete with all of the stats, strength, magic find, especially attack speed, which is really valuable, that the Golden Dragon gives. As you can see, I'm forced to use Tiger plushie on my Ender Dragon because I just don't have enough attack speed without Tiger plushie, while the Golden Dragon gives me all the attack speed I need by itself. So in all, the Golden Dragon comfortably takes the second category, and we are now at 1-1. Alright, and now moving on to the raw damage test. In this test, we will be putting the Ender Dragon versus the Golden Dragon for killing zombies as well as killing Endermen. In order to make this test more interesting, we're going to be starting off with no pet to have a good baseline, and then we will be testing the Ender Dragon, and then we will be testing the Golden Dragon, but at different bank amounts. So starting off with the Golden Dragon, we're going to do no bank, and then we're going to do 100 mil in the bank, 500 mil in the bank, and finally the full 1 billion coins in the bank, to find out just how important it is to have different amounts in the bank to draw out the full power of the Golden Dragon. Additionally, for this test, I am using the Hurtful Reforge of everything on strength with 3/4 Crimson Warden Helmet, my Blaze Slayer equipment, and my Estrella. It's not exactly a DPS setup, but I felt like this would be the most consistent. Originally, I planned on using Necron, but I realized that the Legion could throw off the numbers a little bit, so I decided to stick with Crimson. Now starting off with no pet. With no pet here, we are dealing on a regular zombie 466,000 damage, 467, 467. So roughly 467,000 damage. And moving on to the Ender Dragon, we are now dealing 608,000 damage. Okay. 609,000, 609,000, 609,000. It's already a massive damage increase with the Ender Dragon alone. Now moving on to the Golden Dragon, starting off with nothing in the bank, we are getting 526,000, 537,000, 537,000, and 527,000. So roughly around 530,000 damage. So already much lower than the Ender Dragon, but obviously that's with an empty bank. Now let's put 100 million into the bank, see how it does with 100 million coins inside the bank. So starting off here on a regular zombie, we get 557,000, 558, 559, 560. So roughly 560,000, 559,000. So a decent damage increase, but still lower than the Ender Dragon. Let's put in 500 mil. Alright, so we now have 500 mil in the bank, and let's see what the damages look like. 631,000, 632,000, 633,000. Alright, so with 500 mil, the Golden Dragon easily overtakes the Ender Dragon in terms of damage, and it's really impressive. We consider we're only at half bank. Now let's go, let's put in another 500 mil. And let's get ourselves 1 billion coins in the bank. So just to confirm here, 1 billion flat in the bank. And now we deal 739,000 damage. Okay, it's not even close. 740,000 damage. 750,000 damage. So clearly, with zombies, the Golden Dragon easily overtakes the Ender Dragon if you have high purse amounts. And it's not even close. But let's see how the Ender Dragon performs against Enderman, as we know that the Ender Dragon has Enderman as its specialty. So let's go to the end and find out. Alright, and now we are in the end. So this is the main reason why I didn't want to use my Necron armor for this, due to the Legion throwing off some numbers because of all the people running around. So obviously, that's why I'm using Crimson for this test. Now starting off with no pets as the baseline, let's get an Enderman and test things out. If we can find one, that is, that's not being killed. 627,000. Okay, without a pet, we are dealing a lot of damage to Enderman. 612,000 damage, 613,000 damage. Okay, not bad at all. Let's move on to with the Ender Dragon. The pet should really excel here. Let's see just how powerful this Ender Dragon is for killing Enderman. 999,000 damage. Okay. 1 million damage. 1 million damage. Okay, so with an Estrella, we're oftentimes breaking the 1 million damage barrier with this, and not even an optimized setup. That's absolutely insane. We can just see just how powerful the Ender Dragon is with this. Moving on to the Golden Dragon, let's go and empty the bank, and let's see. 686, 686, 687, 687. Okay, so that's a lot lower. That's barely a damage increase. So this empty Golden Dragon is actually really weak here. We're barely getting more damage from that, maybe 10% more. Now then, let's go with 100 mil and see if that helps. So let's find a couple Endermen here. 694, 718, 719, 705. I wonder what's making these inconsistent. 705, 706. Okay, so it's already a pretty big increase, surprisingly, but still far from being as good as the Ender Dragon. Now let's go right into 400 mil. Extra, for 500 mil total. And let's see how good this is now with 500 million coins in the bank, half of the 1 billion. 800,000. Okay, that's a huge jump. I'm most surprised by the 500 mil test. 763, 800,000, 802,000, 700k. What happened to that one? This one has special armor or something? Oh, is it because I'm in a deeper area? Wait, I need to go back up to the 4,500s to make it consistent. 800k. Okay. 810. So a massive, massive damage increase. Absolutely insane. Let's go then. 1 billion coins in the bank. Let's see how it compares to the Ender Dragon, and let's see if the 1 billion coin Golden Dragon can actually overtake the Ender Dragon even for Enderman damage. And the damage is 914, 915, and 923, 923, 925. Okay. So still quite a decent margin lower than the Ender Dragon. So overall, clearly the Ender Dragon is the best for killing Enderman, even at 1 billion coins in the bank for the Golden Dragon. However, with 1 billion coins in the bank, the Golden Dragon does get relatively close in power to the Ender Dragon. So honestly, if you're able to afford a Golden Dragon and 1 billion coins in the bank, it usually will be the better option in general due to how versatile it is compared to the Ender Dragon. Though I did really like how this test did showcase that the Ender Dragon isn't just losing everything against the Golden Dragon, it still is an absolute powerhouse. And in places where it shines the most, it can still overtake even the 1 billion coin Ender Dragon. But obviously, overall, the Golden Dragon takes this category due to having superior damage in general and being more versatile. The last factor that will be considered in this video, which is arguably the most important and the one that will decide which of these two pets is the best, is the door opening factor. For those unfamiliar with my comparison videos, the door opening factor is just this name I made for the factor of which pet, item, or feature unlocks the most content in the game. In terms of door opening factor for the Ender Dragon, we have, of course, the Void Gloom Seraph bosses. The Ender Dragon gives more EHP due to the 10% stat boost than the Golden Dragon, and also gives a little bit more damage than the 1 billion Golden Dragon against Seraph bosses, otherwise known as Enderman Slayer bosses. It does kind of act as an door opening factor for the Enderman bosses, but not to a very serious extent. Additionally, the Ender Dragon also is a necessity for all DPS classes in the final phase of M7, which also makes it a door opening factor in that regard. But usually by the time you're able to play a DPS class in M7, you have the money to have both pets. But if we are just considering that, then yes, it does technically act as a door opening factor for M7. Now moving on to the door opening factors of the Golden Dragon. Yes, that was it for the Ender Dragon, sadly, as the Golden Dragon has many door opening factors. The first one to consider is not really a door opening factor, but it is the best in slot for pretty much all sources of magic find. So if you want the highest magic find possible, it is the best. It is kind of a door opening factor for flares, as using another pet for killing flares, although it is possible, it is very difficult, and usually you rely on the massive damage increase from the Golden Dragon. The Golden Dragon is also a necessity for high master mode floors, pretty much M5 and up. You need a Golden Dragon for the damage increase. And it is also a necessity for Infernal Kudra. It is mandatory to have for Infernal Kudra, or else you just don't deal enough damage in the final phase. And honestly, the Golden Dragon is just used in pretty much all facets of the game. It is literally the ultimate pet. Anything that involves combat, you're using the Golden Dragon. If you want to kill mini bosses in the Nether, you're using the Golden Dragon. If you want to kill mobs with your hype, you're using the Golden Dragon. If you want to kill mobs with a melee weapon, you're using the Golden Dragon. If you want to do a Slayer, Blaze Slayer, any Slayer, even Enderman Slayer, honestly, you're using the Golden Dragon. It gives you the most magic find, it gives you insane damage and stats. You're using the Golden Dragon for pretty much everything in the game that is combat related. It is absolutely insane. It's almost comparable to the Hyperion, but for pets, which is absolutely insane. This is not to take away from the Ender Dragon, however, as the Ender Dragon is kind of like the Terminator, but for pets, which is pretty funny, honestly. If you guys are interested, by the way, in a comparison between the Hyperion and the Terminator, I did make a video like that a while back, so make sure to go check that out. It's a great video, where I compare, in a similar way to what I'm doing in this video, the Hyperion versus the Terminator. But overall, the Golden Dragon wins 3-2. It is the better pet. The Ender Dragon is still an amazing pet, and I recommend it to pretty much anyone who can't afford the 2.2 billion coins. If you got a fully powered Golden Dragon, go and get an Ender Dragon. It's far more affordable. Just get a tier boosted one, and you'll be just fine with that until you can afford a Golden Dragon. But whenever you're able to, I definitely recommend going for the Golden Dragon. It is overall the superior pet. But overall, that is pretty much it. Thank you guys all so much for watching the entire video. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned, because coming up, I will have a video comparing mining and farming. So if you want to be there to watch that video, make sure to subscribe. And that's about it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.